The DJI Mini 2. Is this the last firmware update that we'll see for this little fella? Let's do this. So hello and welcome once again to the channel here 2023. Happy New Year to you all out there. So the DJI Mini 2, DJI have released the latest firmware a couple of weeks ago. I know I'm a little bit late coming to you guys on this, but I know a lot of the subscribers on the channel still use the DJI Mini 2 as I do, and this has just been an absolute fantastic drone. In fact, this particular one is the second one that I've got, or not got, but to have, due to the unfortunate incidents that I had around about 18 months ago. I'll leave a card up there and you can see what that was all about if you're interested, that is. But getting back to today's video, so what's the firmware update all about? Not only just a firmware update for the DJI Mini 2, but it also comes with a firmware for the RCN1 controller as well. So let's get straight into the video. Stick around to the end and I'll give you my summary why I think that this might be the last firmware update for the DJI Mini 2. Let's get straight into the video. So here we go then, straight on with the new DJI Mini 2 firmware. Let's have a look exactly what it's all about. You can see here 01060200. There's a mouthful. And also the firmware for the DJI RCN1. So looking straight in the menus, once you've done your firmware update, as you probably know, but I'll just remind you all that you do have to go through all the menus and change a few things about, because what it does, it resets a lot of things. As you can see just there, the LED at the front, that always defaults for some reason to the first colour. So it's always best to go through the menus and just double check and make sure that everything is as it is, or as you like it to be. Now recently I've had a couple of subscribers asking me where the advanced gimbal settings have gone. Well, they haven't gone, they're actually in this section here, gain and expo tuning, under the control tab. So if you go into there, what happens next is you'll see there is the maximum angular velocity and the yaw smoothness. They're the first things that come up. And then the expo settings for the pitch roll, the yaw and the up and down. So this is where you alter any advanced gimbal settings. And you see there the tilt smoothness and the maximum control speed of the gimbal. So that's where the advanced gimbal settings are now. Moving on to the camera menu. Just make sure that everything is set how you want it to be set. Because like I said, it can default everything back to factory settings as such when you're doing any firmware update. So looking into the transmission, everything is exactly the same. Just remember, what you can do is select either 5.8 or 2.4. 2.4 is for longer range. So looking into the about section, you can see here the aircraft firmware 01060200. And it's always best to check to see if there's any other firmware updates, as I just have just then. And you can see the RC firmware 04110200. Always best to check your FlySafe database as well. Moving back to the safety tab, just one last thing to check is the advanced safety settings, and make sure that that return to home is where it should be. I always leave that as the default. That's all the menus checked. So let's get out, give it a good old test flight and make sure everything works as it should. So out on location, one of my test places that I always come out and test the drones after firmware updates. Nice open field. I don't like flying over houses and things. You tend to get a lot of Wi-Fi interference. So I generally come out and just make sure that we're in the clear and that there's no obstacles about if anything should go wrong. So here we go then, we'll take it out, take it up. I'm not going to get too mad today, a bit of a murky day as you can see, And not only that, it's just finished raining. Flying conditions are fairly good at the moment, as you can see on the UAV forecast. So taking it out, like I say, not too far. All I want to do is to make sure that it functions correctly. I'm going to do 1 or 2 tests. We should do a quick shot and a return to home, but just checking that everything works fine. Compass is working as it should, as you can see down there on the left. Maps are working fine. I've just had that out. Flying with the iPhone today with the RCN1 controller. Just flicking it into sports mode. It would be nice if DJI would include the Mini 2 on the latest controller, the DJI RC, but I can't see that happening, unfortunately. So quick fly around in sports mode. As you can see, everything's working absolutely spot on as it should. I am flying from inside the car. As you can see, you get the odd GPS signal, weak signal notification, nothing to worry about. It's perfectly normal, I would expect, by sitting in the car. So let's do a quick return to home test. Flick back to normal mode and just make sure that that's working as it should. There we go, let's initiate that. And you'll see that it spins 180 degrees as it should. Some people are still getting that problem where it only turns 90 degrees. And I've heard that people are saying that the return to home is not very accurate with this latest update, but I can confirm that it's right above me. I did cancel it just there. One thing you should do is always use the return to home as an emergency situation only. I can't see the point really in using the return to home. It's just a lazy way of bringing your drone back. But using it as an emergency, then once you get sight of it, if you've lost signal and the signal comes back, then cancel the return to home, and that way you can then fly it back and land it safely. I did do a video a couple of weeks ago all about the return to home function, if you want to check that out on that card just there. So just moving on now to do a quick shot. That's a mouthful. We'll just do a quick droney. Selecting the subject. I have had 1 or 2 reports saying that selecting the subject has been a bit iffy, but it's worked absolutely fine for me, as you can see just here. Speed it up. Don't want to bore you to death. That's the quick shot done. So I can confirm that that's working absolutely spot on. Okay, well, there's not really much more to test other than the different modes. It takes photograph, it takes video. Did that earlier just to make sure. We'll land it and we'll summarise back in the studio. So there we go, there's the test flight all done. Nothing in my opinion has changed, other than the fact that when you do a firmware update, as you saw, that you do have to alter a few things about, because it does reset a few things. So I said earlier on in the video about the Mini 2 and why I think that this is probably going to be the last update, firmware update at least, for this little fella. As you know, DJI have brought out 2 more drones since the release of this one, that being the Mini 3 Pro and the DJI Mini 3. So it's got 2 successors to this, but what a faithful guide this has been, and I'm sure most of you out there that have this drone will agree. So, well, in my opinion, I think that this is going to be the last firmware update. I hope I'm wrong, and correct me if I am wrong. Let's see if they bring any more out. But everything comes to an end, and like the Mavic Mini, they stopped doing firmware updates for those a while ago, and now with the release of the 2 new drones, the Mini 3 and the Mini 3 Pro, I think this little fella will be sort of like at the end of its sell-by date, if you like. Let's hope not. Let's hope that they carry on bringing some firmware updates for that little fella, because, well, it's just bomb-proof in my opinion. Great little drone. So I hope you got some use out of the video. If you have, give us a thumbs up. And if you're new around here and you like the drone content on the channel, then why don't you consider subscribing, dinging the dong and all the rest of it that goes with it. And we will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.